What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers for UFC Vegas 72. We got Ricky Simón going against Song Yadong. We are here on a Sunday breaking down a card that is going to happen. We have a fun main event. I'm looking forward to Ricky Simón, Song Yadong. The rest of the card is a little bit iffy, but, as we always say, if we can make some money on these fights, don't have much complaints. I'm glad we have a fight card rather than no fight card whatsoever, but some of these fights, man. But we're going to talk about them. We're here with Weezy. Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to UFC Vegas 72?
Yeah, this is one of those cards, Brady, we have to work when the UFC has a card, right? And this is, so it's like the UFC is our boss. And if they're putting on a card, it's our boss telling us that we have to work. But this card is kind of like boss coming up to you late on a Friday, and then telling you, hey, I need you to work Saturday and Sunday. And you don't want to work. It's nothing that really needs to be done, but this is where we're at. But when we put in the work, we can find the spots. When we find the spots, we can cash some tickets, and that's what it's always all about. And we're here to do exactly that, Brady. Hopefully keep rolling what we started last week.
Yep, me and you really put a beating on the bookies, man. We're going to do a quick recap of last night, and then we will get started here. So I'll kick it off. Man, my night started off kind of like iffy. Like I had a Denat Bakary inside the distance, half unit plus 140. I also sprinkled round one, round two. He got close. I mean, he dropped Brady, but Brady was able to survive and come back and actually get a come behind finish in that third round. So lost a unit there on the Denat. Finish props, I wasn't really too upset with those. Lost a half unit on Wells Semmelsberger under 1.5 plus 145. I believe you're on that as well, Weezy. Love that shot as well. Plus 145. Jeremiah Wells went out there trying to cash that. The guy got knocked out like 3 times. But man, Jeremiah Wells, extremely tough, was able to get the win. So that under did not cash. I had the Yasmin. Steve, I'm sorry. It's Yasmin. Lucindo Broken Walker under 2.5 rounds, half a unit plus 220. Man, I thought Lucinda was going to go to the grappling more. When she did get a takedown in the first round, she got right into mount pretty easily. So I kind of expect her to go to it more, get the finish there, but that did not happen. So at this point, my night's not going the best whatsoever. And then the Bobby Green fight happens. And then I'm very heavy on Bobby Green. I have 2 units on Bobby Green in a parlay. And then also have a quarter unit on the Bobby Green knockout prop at plus 380. And then the freaking clash of heads. Jared Gordon falls down to the mat. And Bobby Green finishes him with ground and pound. I thought I shouldn't have cashed it. Absolutely, it should absolutely be no contest. But I thought it was about to cash because Joe Martinez went into the cage and was like, "And you're winner." And then they're like, "No, stop, Joe, stop." And then we got to look at it some more. So I almost cashed that Bobby Green ticket, but absolutely should have been no contest. So at this point, I'm very upset. I hit up Weezy. I'm like, man, I need a miracle to have a winning night. And a miracle happened, man. In the last 2 fights, everything went perfectly. My biggest bet of the card was Bruno Silva finish only. I had 2.5 units on it at minus 130. Could not believe that line. It was actually like minus 122 on FanDuel. So my biggest bet hit. And then in the main event, I had the fight won't start round 4 in a parlay with Yasmin Lucindo. I had the fight doesn't go to decision in a parlay with Bobby Green. Both those hit. I had the under 1.5 rounds at minus 140 for 1.5 units. And then I had a quarter sprinkle on Sergey Pavlovich. First round knockout plus 410 was able to get on Bet Rivers for winning a little bit over a unit there. Other than that, I had a unit on the Jackson Yaya under 2.5 rounds, minus 142. That was probably the easiest spot in the card. I wish I would have went heavier on that. And I think that's about it. But yeah, really good night. Up 4.23 units from betting. And then I got a 3rd place on DraftKings. So overall, made over $1,000 last night. So very happy with how last night played out. On kind of a toughish card, I'd say. Weezy, how'd your night go? I know you came out on top as well.
Yeah, so I started off on fire. I had the Brady Heastan money line. I got it early at plus 170 for 1 unit, so I hit that bet. Brady was losing that fight. Denat really was putting it on him early, but I also, I said on the Pub Sports live stream, when we were talking about that fight while it was happening, between the 2nd and 3rd round, I said to everybody, I'm really interested to see now how Denat responds here in the 3rd round, because this is the first time that anybody's ever tried to grapple with him. And he might be really tired. And everybody else there was on back row, and I could tell they were looking at me like I was crazy saying that. And then he got that takedown. He got, to a dominant position, really making Tana wear his weight and to not quit. I think a lot of people blame Jaron Villel for that stoppage. It wasn't the best stoppage, but Tana was offering nothing. And I mean, if he didn't stop it then, he probably would have had to stop it 10 or 15 seconds later because the kid had nothing left in the tank. So cash on the Brady Hiestand money line at plus 170. The next fight, I cash on the William Gomez money line, 1 unit at plus 180. That put me up 3.5 units. And then I lost 1 unit on the under 1.5 rounds for Semmelsberger's Wells. Good fight, good bet. It just didn't cash. Nobody got knocked out. And then I had a bet that was a parlay that wound up, one of the legs was, I think, the Priscilla Cachoeira under. The other leg was the fight doesn't start round 3 for the main event. So cash 2.95 units, I think. And I also hit my prize picks play. So that was good. Made even a little bit of money on Bellator the night before. So yeah, man, this was a good week. And this week, we're going to have to try to find some spots here. This is definitely a lower level card, but whenever we can find the spots, we got to smash them. And if we find them, we can find ways to make money like we did last week.
Yep. Had a good week last week. I'm not giving it back on Jake Collier, Martin Buday. I can tell you that much. But yeah, I had a weird feeling about last week's card. Like that Cachoeira Silva fight getting called off, that really took the wind out of my sails. Like I had a 3.5 unit bet on the fight doesn't go, which was tied for my biggest bet of the year. I was already like banking on that hitting. So when that got called off, I'm like, man, it's gonna be a tough week. But no, it ended up being one of my best weeks of the year overall. So, but yeah, this week, man, I'm gonna try to keep it light. I have 2 bets already, like small half unit bets. I don't know if I'm going to be adding much more because we'll talk about it throughout the card. Like there's a bunch of sketchy fights on this card, but I'm looking forward to talking about it with you, Weezy. Let's shout out the chat before we get started and get into it all. We got UFC Shell 100 minutes early. What is up, UFC Shell? We got Pablo in the building. We got Sean. We got Buffo on the beat. We have Only One Dream. What is up? We got Victor De Jesus in the building. We got Cole. We got Mushroom. We can't be serious. We got Nick. We got Kalu, Rex, Lee, Hunter. We got Londo, Mr. D, Jong, Lee, Randy. We got Dylan. The list goes on and on. We got Chasing Big. We got Rips and Picks. What is up? We got Jacksonville, Zoe in the building as well. What is up, everybody? Be sure to hit the like button. Do appreciate it a ton. And we got Preston in the building. What is up, Preston? Jared, I see you as well. And Pete. All right. Weezy, I say we get into it, and we're going to start with the first fight on the card. We have Haley Cohen going against Jamie-Lyn Horth. We got Haley Cohen, who is 31 years old, 5'8" with a 67-inch reach. Jamie-Lyn Horth, she is 33 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Haley Cohen, she is 2 years younger. It's going to be Haley Cohen with a 1-inch height advantage, same reach there. Haley Cohen, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She's finally going to hopefully be making her UFC debut. It kind of feels like it's been a couple times now where she's been supposed to fight. I think one time it was her fault. Another time it was her opponent's fault. Hopefully this fight does happen. But yeah, going to be making her debut here, 4-1 in her last 5 fights. And then we have Jamie-Lyn Horth, who is obviously undefeated, 5-0 in her last 5 fights, 5-0 in her only 5 fights, and all 5 of those coming inside the distance. So I guess the biggest things to mention here is Jamie-Lyn Horth is going to be coming up a weight class. She is going to be the smaller fighter. And I guess that'd be my one concern here on the Jamie-Lyn Horth side. I think she's dangerous really anywhere the fight goes. She has power on the feet, a solid grappling game as well. And I think that grappling can very well come into play here against Cohen, who tends to make a lot of mistakes on the mat. She almost got subbed on the Contender Series. She's been subbed in 2 fights prior. Whenever she's losing, she's getting submitted. So I think a Horth submission is very much on the table here. But my concern is, Cohen, what she's very good at is she's physically strong. She's an athlete. And I think Cohen can absolutely win submissions just holding Horth against the cage, kind of grinding her out. But I do lean Horth here. I think she's more dangerous, and I think she could potentially keep that finish streak up here and get Cohen out here with a submission. So what I'm looking at this week is probably a Horth, maybe a submission prop, inside the distance prop, because I just think Cohen makes a lot of mistakes on the mat. But I think there's path to victories for both fighters here. It's a pick 'em. Not really sure where this line's going to move. But Weezy, curious to hear your take on this fight. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a paragraph written about Haley Cohen, which you guys have already heard twice on this show, because she had to pull out of the fight against Aylin Perez, and then she got matched up with somebody, I think it was Tamiris Vidal, and then Vidal had to pull out. So, you guys know what Haley Cohen's about. She's a big, strong girl, really athletic, got a late start to mixed martial arts, but like Brady said, she's strong. She can push you against the cage. And she's athletic and fast, so she can get a good head kick up fast. And those cheerleading kicks, Brady. They look great when they're kicking air, but you get one of those in the face, it's no fun. I'll tell you that. So she's gonna be a tough opponent for anybody just because of the size, the strength, the athleticism that Cohen has. But Jamie-Lyn Horth is legit now. First of all, Squamish, British Columbia, stand up, because your girl is representing big time for you. She's always talking about where she's from, which is Squamish, and she's putting them on the map here. Now, she got a late start in MMA. She had her first pro fight at the age of 28. Jamie's 5-0, all 5 wins coming inside the distance. She's got 2 submissions, 3 knockouts. She's an orthodox fighter with a Muay Thai base. She's long for the flyweight weight class with long legs, but this fight will be at bantamweight, and it's going to be her bantamweight debut. All her other fights were at flyweight. She's coming off winning the LFA flyweight title. She beat Mayra Cantuaria by rear naked choke in the 3rd round. And Brady, I don't know if you know this, what was most impressive about that performance was that Jamie had all the ligaments in her knee torn in a leg lock in that fight. You remember when Mayra got her in the leg lock? Well, that tore her knee up, and she stood back up and her leg was a noodle. And it's crazy because when you watch that fight, you have no idea that Jamie-Lyn Horth's leg gets torn up by that leg lock. She doesn't show any pain. She shows no limited mobility on that bad leg, but she had to have that knee completely reconstructed, and that's why we haven't seen her in a while. So she heard the pops. She got up. She couldn't put weight on it, but she never showed that she was hurt. And she fought into the 3rd round on one leg, eventually getting a takedown in the 3rd round, getting to her opponent's back, and she finished with the rear naked choke on one leg. From what I've seen on tape, Jamie's pretty good everywhere. She's got smooth technical striking on the feet. She'll switch stances. She's strong in the clinch. She mixes in the wrestling, and she does good work from top position. She passes guard. She hunts for submissions. She throws ground and pound. She's definitely had problems getting fights and staying healthy with only 5 pro fights in a 5-year career. But when you see in the cage from her, shows she's ready for this level. She's got the skills to swim in the UFC's shark-infested pool. I'm looking forward to seeing her make her debut against Haley on Saturday. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting stylistic matchup because, with Horth, she's less experienced, but she's probably actually fought the better names. When you look at the names on her roster, Haley Cohen's going to split decisions with Claudia Oleksiejczuk and Brittany Cloudy, while Jamie-Lyn Horth is got Corinne Laframboise in her 3rd pro fight. She got a knockout win over Jade Masson Wong, a submission win over Mayra Cantuaria. These are fighters that are probably better than the fighters that Haley Cohen's been fighting on the regional scene, in all seriousness. So while Horth is coming up a weight class, she's on a reconstructed knee. I think that she's better everywhere in terms of just how she fights. She's the better striker. She's the better grappler. So wherever this fight goes, as long as it's not Horth's back up against the cage, I think Jamie's going to be winning the minutes everywhere because she's just a better fighter. So I put a bet. I got 1.05 units on the Horth money line here at -105, looking to win 1 unit. I think she's better, and I think we're going to see a very interesting, well-rounded fighter make her debut and beat Haley Cohen on Saturday.
I wonder why she's coming up a weight class.
Well, there's probably a couple reasons for it. One, she's been rehabbing on one leg, so perhaps she hasn't been able to run as much. Perhaps this Cantuaria fight wasn't too long ago, and so she had to rehab that knee. Second of all, she was saying in her interview with James Lynch that she's just having a really hard time finding fights. Nobody wants to fight her. They said that in TKO, they had 7 different women turn down fights with her. They can't find fights. So when she was going to be on the Contender Series and she couldn't get a visa. So then that set her back as well. So there's been some things in the background with Horth that have been keeping her from getting to the cage. But I think that, when you watch her on tape, there's a lot there to like. And I think that there's a reason why a lot of these women are dodging her.
Yep, I like it. I do like the horse side myself. I'm gonna get a little bit greedy. I want to take a shot at a potential like a juicy sub prop because right now the under 2.5 is plus 170. 100% finish rate for Horth. Cohen finished in all of her losses. I think Horth can get her out of there. So I'm gonna be looking at the sub prop, the inside the distance. But yeah, we got a straight pick 'em here. Haley Cohen opened up minus 205, currently minus 110. Jamie-Lyn Horth opened up plus 175, currently minus 110. Like I said, I'm not really sure where this line's going to go, but you beat some line movement already, Weezy. You went from minus
a little bit. I got her at minus 105, and Waldo's saying 5 units. No, 1.05. 1.05 units at minus 105. Not 5 units. I did not bet 5 units on her, but also she trains with Lupi Godinez up there in Canada, and she beat Lupi twice as an amateur. But, Lupi's a 115er, and now she's going to be fighting at 135. So something we have to keep our eye on.
Yep. Should be an interesting fight to kick off the card. Not the best fight in the world, but I am looking forward to seeing a Jamie-Lyn Horth this Saturday. Jake, anyway, Paul, Martin Buday is 100% a lock. You're crazy, dude. Weezy, you wouldn't believe how many people last week said Junior Taffa's a freaking lock. Junior Taffa, the same guy that started his MMA career 8 months ago. Nothing is a lock in MMA, especially somebody like Martin Buday. Like that's a terrible comment, Jake. Anyway, Paul, I'm picking him to win, but it's absolutely not a lock. Moving on.
There's no locks in this heavyweight division.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Especially with some of these terrible low-level fights like Junior Taffa, Muhammad Usman. Both those guys are atrocious. Nothing's a lock in that fight.
Yeah.
But anywho, let's move on to the next fight. We got Brian Kelleher going against Journey Newson. We got Brian Kelleher, 36 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Journey Newson, 34 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. We got Journey Newson 2 years younger. It's going to be Brian Kelleher with a 1-inch height advantage and then a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Brian Kelleher, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We have a decision loss to Ricky Simón, a decision win to Domingo Pilarte, a decision win against Kevin Kroom, a submission loss to both Umar Nurmagomedov and Mario Batista. Journey Newson is 2-3 in his last 5 fights as well. He has a decision loss to Ricardo Ramos, a knockout win against Domingo Pilarte, a knockout loss to Randy Costa, a decision win against Fernie Garcia, and then a decision loss to Sergey Morozov. So, yeah, how I look at this fight is I do like the Kelleher side. I don't really like the line on it. I just think he has a clear path to victory, and that's going to be to exploit the 43% takedown defense of Journey Newson. Journey Newson's a black belt, but he never really uses it. I think he's completed only 2 takedowns in his entire UFC career. I think Brian Kelleher can go out there and make it look a lot like the Domingo Pilarte fight where he fought smart, he took down Domingo Pilarte, he got control on top, and I think it can exploit the takedown defense of Journey Newson. What does concern me, though, is Brian Kelleher's been submitted it's been like, I think 8 times Brian Kelleher's been submitted. So with Journey Newson being a black belt, I might be taking a look at Journey Newson's sub just if it's like a crazy number, but I'm kind of leaning towards Brian Kelleher using the veteran savvy, going out there, mixing in takedowns, and grinding out a decision here. But not a fight I'm extremely confident in, and not a fight I really want to put a ton of money on, unless, like I said, Journey Newson's sub something crazy like plus 1,400. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting fight between a couple of veterans here. Kelleher's 36, Journey's 34, but obviously Kelleher's way more experience. You see 23 more professional fights there, about 170 more minutes in the pro cage, 10 more fights at the UFC level, about 75, 80 more minutes in the UFC cage. Kelleher's a better finisher overall, 41.67% sub rate overall, 33% knockout rate. And he's finishing guys at the UFC level too, with 5 of his 8 wins coming inside the distance. But while this is on the feet, Kelleher's got some power. He's got some power in that left hand of his. He switches stances. He's got a couple knockouts in the UFC, one over Stasiak, one over Hunter Azure, and he's got 3 wins by submission. So he can win moments on the feet, and he can win minutes and moments with his grappling, especially that guillotine choke, Brady. He's got 3 wins by guillotine just in the UFC. So kid's got a really good guillotine as well. But the problem is with Brian is that he can't be at range and winning minutes. He's just not doing it. If you look at those distance striking numbers, they tell a tale, don't they? 4.6 landed per minute spent at distance, but 7 absorbed. 6.95 is what he's absorbing per minute at distance. 57% striking defense. He's absorbed a couple of knockdowns. So he's a minute loser at distance. While Jeremy Newson is a short bantamweight at only 5'5" with a 67-inch reach, but he's actually winning minutes at distance. He lands 3.26 and he only absorbs 2.59. He throws almost 2 more significant strike attempts at distance more than his opponents throw. 31% accuracy isn't great, but what Jeremy does well is manage range with his kicks. He's got kind of a traditional martial arts style on the feet, and he can use those kicks to close the distance that he can't close with his hands because he's so short for the division. So, Brian's gonna have to wrestle here to look minus 175. If he doesn't, I think he's probably gonna lose the minutes at distance here. And we've seen Journey wrestle a little bit. He got 2 takedowns against Fernie Garcia, but you can see in the control time numbers there. He gets 2% control time, does Journey, and he allows 21% control time. So if Kelleher does go out there with that same game plan he had in the Pilardi fight, with the same game plan he had in the Kroom fight, where he says, I'm going to use my grappling to win minutes against guys that are much taller than me. I don't want to have to close the distance against these guys, lose minutes at distance striking range. Now, he's going to be the taller guy in comparison to Newson, but I still think that Newson will be the better distance manager on the feet, and Brian will be able to keep it close there. But I think where he looks minus 175 is by getting takedowns, getting on top and winning minutes there with some ground and pound. So yeah, I'm picking Brian to win this one by decision. If he takes that path, I think it'll be the path of least resistance. But if he doesn't get those takedowns, Brady, I think it's going to look more like a pick'em.
Yeah, it could. I think he does go out there and wrestle, though. I don't see why he wouldn't. Brian Kelleher opened up minus 190. He's currently minus 173. Journey Newson opened up plus 165. He's currently plus 148. The over 2.5 is minus 160, which, by the way, shout out to BetOnline, DraftKings, BetUS for getting out these over-unders extremely early. Like, they got them out, I think, like Friday or Saturday. So very early. So shout out to them. But yeah, the under 2.5 rounds plus 130, the over 2.5 minus 160. It's a pass fight for me. Unless, like I said, unless there's like a crazy prop that sticks out, I'm going to pick Kelleher to win, but I'm not in love with that minus 173.
Yeah, those lines are priced pretty well for the over-under right now. And yeah, I like Kelleher to win this one, but I don't want to really lay minus 175 on him. So it feels kind of like a stay away for me, but this could be an interesting fight.
It very well could be for sure. All right. We'll move on to the next fight. We have Stephanie Egger going against Irina Alekseeva. We got Egger, who is 34 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. Irina Alekseeva, 32 years old, 5'8" with a 66-inch reach. We got Irina, 2 years younger, 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Egger, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Decision loss to Tracy Cortez, knockout win against Shanny Young, submission win against Jessica Rose Clark, submission loss against Mara Bueno Silva, and a submission win against Eileen Perez. As far as Alekseeva, she is making her debut here. She is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. So yeah, Alekseeva, she's very big, judo background. I'm just not sure she's that good at MMA. I'm not in love with her striking whatsoever. I think she makes a lot of mistakes on the mat. I think this fight is going to hit the mat, and when it does, I just think Egger is going to be the much better grappler. Obviously, you don't want to lay minus 300 on Stephanie Egger, but I do think she goes out there and eventually gets like an arm bar, gets on top, and eventually finishes this fight. But laying minus 300 on Egger is probably not something that I'm going to be doing this week. I actually laid a lot of chalk on Yasmin Lucindo last week, and it paid off, but I don't know. It's been a spot that hurts me in the past, laying this much chalk on WMMA. But yeah, Edgar should go out here and win this fight. I think she's much better. And quite frankly, I'm not sure what Alexeva is doing in the UFC. So Edgar gets it done. One of the biggest favorites on the card. I won't be parlaying her, but I think she does win this fight. Weezy, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Alexeva being in the UFC is a comment to the depth of the women's bantamweight division right now. Plain and simple. This girl shouldn't be here, but I don't even know if half the women's bantamweight division should be here. Facts. You know, that's I think where we're at with this, because you go and you watch the tape and you're like, what? She's here? You know, I mean, a win against Golnera Garaeva is her UFC debut. You know how she won that fight, Brady?
How?
Refusal to fight in round 1. So the girl just quit fighting. So that's one of her wins. And then she took a week off, or 2 weeks off, and then beat Shazota Rakhimova from Uzbekistan. Then she beats Zlata Sheftor a couple of weeks later. So she's 3-0. Then she's supposed to fight Milana Dudieva. Dudieva has to drop out of the fight. Zlata Sheftor takes it on, Lilia Kazak takes it on short notice and beats her. And then Arina Alexeva holds Stephanie Lelo Page up against the cage for three rounds and wins a decision there. Her striking's not good. Her first 2 fights, Brady, were at featherweight. Then the next 3 were at flyweight, and then she missed weight one of the times at flyweight. So now she's moving up to bantamweight here. She's got 1 win by armbar as a professional, and with that 1 win by armbar over Zlata Sheftor, she now has the nickname Russian Ronda. Are you kidding me? 1 armbar and you're going to call yourself Ronda Rousey? Like there aren't 100 Russian women that would armbar this woman? I don't know what's going on here, dude. Stephanie Egger should shave this girl's ass violently. Stephanie's really legit. I mean, but I do need to mention that they said it on Bellator in her last fight against Stephanie Lelo Page that Arina Alexeva is a 3-time world Sambo champion. So she's got a Sambo background. She's been a 3-time world champion. So that's something right there. That's a great.
Weezy. Yazong Hu's a world champion.
He's not a world champion. He's a regional Chinese Greco-Roman participant. If you just participate in a Greco-Roman wrestling competition in China, you automatically get 2nd place because there's no 3rd competitor. So
that's true.
But with Irina, you know, she's Russian. She does Sambo. She's got that Sambo background. But yeah, man, when you watch the tape, I'm just not sure what she's doing here. And Stephanie Egger is really good on the ground. And she's got legit judo black belt, you know, legit under 23 world or European champion. This girl was an ADCC champion as well. She went to a decision with Gabby Garcia, who's like bigger than you, Brady. You know, so Stephanie Egger can absolutely grapple. And when she's in tight in those clinch positions, her judo is exceptional. And her submission game is fantastic as well. So she should mow through this Alexeva girl. I don't know what she's doing here. I don't even think Alexeva is a short notice replacement here. I think this is the fight that they made, which makes no sense to me. It doesn't. It feels like there's a massive gap in skill between these 2 fighters.
Yeah, I was watching tape and I was like, what's going on here? And yeah, that bum Yazong Hu. Yeah, man, is she trying to look like Ronda in this picture?
I don't know, man.
But she looks completely different. She gave herself a haircut, and it's actually a nice haircut. Let's see if I can bring it up. I can't even bring it up. No, yeah. Dang it won't let me bring it up. But she like completely shaved off her hair.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she has like I don't even know how to explain it, but she's looking very handsome now.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, but Russian Ronda. Russian Ronda, Irina Alexeyeva, making her UFC debut against a woman who gets arm bars in Stephanie Egger. So it'll be interesting to see, how Alexeyeva can do on the ground against somebody who's as talented and as creative as Stephanie Egger is down there. But yeah, I think Egger should absolutely destroy in this spot.
Yeah, what I like is Egger inside the distance or like the under, just due to the fact that when Egger's winning, she's winning inside the distance. How many wins does she have? 8?
Yeah, she's got 7 of her 8
Yeah,
wins
7.
are inside the distance,
Yeah.
Brady. I mean, she is definitely legit.
Yeah, and I don't think Alexeyeva's UFC caliber at all. So yeah, I like Egger inside the distance. I like the under at plus money as well. I think Egger goes out there and starches her by submission, that is.
By submission is how I'm looking at it too. I'm going to be looking at that prop for sure.
All right, let's get this picture off of here. We have a very interesting fight. We have Charles Johnson. Jared's asking, is the haircut Charles Johnson or is it Maisie Chiasson? It's Maisie Chiasson. It's like Maisie Chiasson, but like darker, like a brunette Maisie Chiasson, I'd say. Very handsome, but we'll see if it works out for her. All right, we have Cody Durden going against Charles Johnson. We got Cody Durden, 32 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Charles Johnson, 32 years old, 5'9", 70-inch reach. Same age. Charles Johnson, 2-inch reach or height advantage, and then a 3-inch reach advantage. Cody Durden is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Submission loss to Jimmy Flick. Decision win against Arichi Long. A submission loss to Muhammad Mokaev. A knockout win against JP Bays, and then a decision win against Carlos Mota. As far as Charles Johnson, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Carlos Mota, a decision loss against Muhammad Mokaev, a decision win against August Sumagulov, a knockout win against Jimmy Flick, a decision loss against Ode Osborne. One thing I wanted to ask you, Weezy, if you know this or not. So Charles Johnson came in his last fight against Ode Osborne on short notice, and he kind of slowed down a lot in that fight. Do you know how much notice he had for this fight here? Which I think it's really important to know this.
I think that they've been trying to make this fight for a minute. I mean, if you know, Cody Durden and Charles Johnson do not like each other, man.
I like it.
Dude, they have been talking shit on Twitter to each other constantly. And Johnson took the last fight on short notice. And I believe he doesn't even live in the United States, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he was coming off of another fight, flew to the Netherlands, then he's over there, then he has to get the visa to come back to the United States, takes the fight on short notice, and we saw him gas out in that third round there against Ode Osborne, and that's why he lost that fight. So this is interesting, but yeah, this fight has been made for a minute. It's been on the card. I mean, I always do the stats about 2 weeks in advance, and this fight had been made prior to that. So at least 3 to 4 weeks notice, I would think here. But yeah, no love lost between these two cats.
Nice. So that should be fun. Yeah, I think this is one of the closer fights to call on the card. I really think it all comes down to whether Cody Durden can wrestle for 15 minutes here. He's a very good wrestler. I think he can get takedowns, but Charles Johnson has really good takedown defense, a really good get-up game. But Durden's probably going to be able to get takedowns. He's probably going to be able to get control. It's just that we see a lot of times Durden does slow down as the fight goes on. So it's a fight where I'm kind of flipping back and forth here. Weezy, maybe you can help me out a little bit, but I think Durden absolutely has a path to victory here, and that is with the takedowns. As long as his cardio holds up, I think it's a very winnable fight. And he's a pretty decent-sized dog here, I think. What are your thoughts here, Weezy?
Yeah, this feels like a striker versus grappler matchup because, Charles is good on the feet. He's fast. He's long. And he's got fantastic conditioning. So if he wants to push that pace and out volume you on the feet, he has the ability to do that. But when you see Charles really start to feel himself, he looks good on the feet. He'll start pressuring, putting together combinations. But he can start slow, Charles Johnson can. And I think that that's a little bit frustrating because for somebody that we know has really good cardio almost all the time, with the lone exception being that Ode Osborne fight, you'd love to see Charles push that pace more, pressure more, throw more volume, because he's got a good chin. He's got really, really crisp boxing. He's switching stances constantly. He can really do a lot of damage when he's striking. and the takedown defense is good against everybody not named Muhammad Mokaev, who really just, I mean, relentlessly grappled him for 15 minutes. And I don't know if Cody's on that level. You know, Cody's a former state champion wrestler. Both of these guys are around the same age, but it's going to be Charles, who's 2 inches taller and having a 3-inch reach advantage here. The experience numbers are similar. You know, Cody, a couple more fights at the UFC level, a couple more fights overall, but it's Charles Johnson with a few more minutes in the cage. But both these guys have been pros for about the same amount of time and have a very similar amount of experience. Both of these guys, good finishers. Charles Johnson, overall, sitting around 70%. And for Durden, it's about 77, 78% of his fights that are finishing. And Cody's been finished in 3 of his 4 losses, while Charles Johnson's never been finished. So that's always something I look for there, is that a potential Charles Johnson finish-only prop could be a good way to look at this fight. But when you look at those distance striking numbers, it's pretty clear, you know, that Johnson's landing 5.9, absorbing 5.97. Durden is getting outlanded by almost 1 significant strike per minute at distance. You know, both these guys get out-volumed, but Johnson gets out-volumed a little bit more. Cody's shown a little more power. He's got 1 knockdown, while Charles Johnson has 0. But when you look at the grappling numbers, that's where you see the difference in how these guys approach fights. Cody Durden has attempted 34 takedowns, and Durden's opponents have attempted 7. Charles Johnson has attempted 7 takedowns, and Charles Johnson's opponents have attempted 43. So this is a style that's the stylistic crux of this fight. Cody probably needs to wrestle to win the minutes. Johnson probably needs to keep this fight standing to win the minutes. So which one of these guys is more equipped to make that happen? The level of competition here, Durden has fought the better win-loss ratioed competition. Neither of these guys has what I would call impressive UFC wins thus far. And they've both lost to really good fighters. So this is a good fight. I think Cody Durden's been very underrated in his UFC run thus far. And I think Charles Johnson, we know what we're going to get with him. We're going to get really good conditioning, really good boxing, solid takedown defense, and the ability to push a pace for 3 rounds here. So this is a great fight, man. Which way are you leaning on this one?
It's got to be dog, just because I feel like this fight's super close. Cody Durden, this guy can wrestle. He can wrestle really good. The one time we did see him slow down a ton, like was in that his debut, right, against Chris Gutierrez, but he was up a weight class on short notice, I believe. So other than that, yes, he's getting tired, but he's still able to wrestle in the 3rd round against Richie Long. He was still able to wrestle into the 3rd round against Carlos Mota. So yeah, as long as his cardio does hold up, I think he can probably win enough minutes here. But yeah, it's a close one, but it's not lying like a close fight. We have Charles Johnson, who is the favorite. He opened up -145, went to -200. He's currently -175. Cody Durden opened up +125, went to +170. He's currently +150 there. So yeah, dog or pass for me. I'll take Durden with not a ton of confidence, but I feel like this fight should be lined a little bit closer. Over under set at 2.5. The over 2.5 -210. The under 2.5 +120. I think this fight goes the distance more often than not. But yeah, I don't know if I'll take the dog shot on Durden, but it's something I'm considering. It looks like money is coming in on Durden. He was +170. Looks like yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was like +170. Now he's +150. So money is coming in on Durden, which I get. I think it's going to be a close fight that can really go either way. Could even be like a split decision type fight where you have the grappling of Durden, the control versus the striking, the damage of Charles Johnson on the feet. I think it's a close fight. What are your thoughts, Weezy?
Yeah, I think it's a close fight as well. But, you know, I think Charles Johnson's grappling is kind of underrated, actually, a little bit. And, you know, if he can kind of hang on the ground, get sweeps, hunt for submissions when Durden is taking him down, or just, you know, stop the takedowns and wear out Durden, make Durden tired by not being able to get the takedowns. I think Charles Johnson's going to win this fight. But yeah, I'm not running to the window to lay that kind of juice on that dude, especially after he gassed out in the 3rd round the last time. I think that's an anomaly. I think we're going to see him come, you know, well conditioned and ready to go in this fight. But yeah, it's Durden is not somebody that I want to get in the way of right now because he's been underrated in this run and he's fighting well.
Yep, for sure. Really good fight there. Buried on the prelims. One of the probably better fights on the card, actually. So really looking forward to that one. All right, so let's move on to an interesting fight here. We got Natan Levy going against Pete Rodriguez. What's his nickname? Is it
Dead Game?
Dead Game? Dead Game. I
Dead
like
Game.
that. Pete
Yeah.
Rodriguez. We got Natan Levy, 31 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. Pete Rodriguez, 26 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. We got Pete Rodriguez, 5 years younger, same height, same reach. Natan Levy, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Rafa Garcia, lost that fight by decision. Prior to that, had a 3rd-round submission win on the Contender Series. He won by decision against both Mike Breeden and Gennaro Valdez. As far as Pete Rodriguez, he made his debut against Jack Della Maddalena. Poor guy, lost that fight by 1st-round knockout. And then the UFC got him back and gave him Mike Jackson, and he knocked out Mike Jackson in very brutal fashion there. So yeah, this is a very weird fight, but it's kind of interesting. We have Pete Rodriguez. This guy has 6 fights, and this guy has never seen the 2nd round. This guy's only been over 1/2 of a round just once, and that was against Jack Della Maddalena in a fight that went 2 minutes and 59 seconds. So this is a guy that is getting in and getting out, has a ton of power on the feet, but there's so many question marks. What does this guy look like in the 2nd round? What does this guy look like in the 3rd round? What does this guy's takedown defense look like? What does his get-up game look like? What's his grappling look like? This guy's been subbed as an amateur. So I think we're going to get all of those things answered here against Natan Levy, who's shown that he's tough, he's durable. This is a guy, Natan Levy, that showed that he has good cardio. He can go into the 2nd and 3rd round, and he's a guy that shows he can go out there and wrestle. He can get fights down to the mat, and he can grapple, and he can get submissions. So, yeah, I think if Pete Rodriguez wins this fight, it's probably a 1st-round knockout. But as the fight goes on into that 2nd, that 3rd round, I think it heavily favors a guy, Natan Levy. And for all we know, Pete Rodriguez could be some bum grappler. And I think Levy is potentially live for a sub here. I know Levy doesn't have a finish yet in the UFC, but I think that finish probably comes here against a guy that has not even seen like 3 minutes into a 1st round. So give me Natan Levy. I'm going to be looking at those 2nd and 3rd round submission props for Levy. But I think an interesting way to play this fight, we talked about it a little bit, it may be a shot on Pete Rodriguez KO1, because that's literally how he wins, no other way. And if they price it at a ridiculous price, it could be like a Jordan Wright knockout 1 prop, where that's literally how he wins type of shot. So Levy's the obvious pick. He's a big favorite for a reason. But there's a lot of question marks on the Rodriguez side that I think are going to be answered here. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one? Kind of a weird fight that's put together here.
Yeah, and there's one more question mark that we need to answer. And how is Pete Rodriguez going to look as a lightweight? He's always been a welterweight. He's making his lightweight debut here against a guy who's going to grapple him. So, yeah, that's another question that we have here. But I've got Pete Rodriguez's amateur career pulled up here, Brady. You know, he did have 1 fight go to decision. It was his 2nd amateur fight back in 2016, and he lost that decision. And the other fights, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, only 1 of them got into round 2. So basically every other fight, lost by rear naked choke to Terry Lyles in the 1st round. But then there's a 1st round knockout, a 2nd round knockout in 19 seconds, knockout in 2:45, knockout in 1:18, knockout 1:58, knockout 2:26. So, yeah, I mean, he's just knocking people out. And then his pro career for the first 4 fights spans less than 5 minutes. You know, so yeah, we don't know much about Pete Rodriguez, but I mean, I'm sure if we could pull up a couple of these amateur fights, like the one where he lost by rear naked choke in round 1 to a guy named Terry Lyles, who's 4-0 as a professional. Terry Lyles is, and Terry Lyles,
The Lion.
Oh yeah, but I think that's all amateur. He's just 4-0 as an amateur, and he hasn't fought since 2019. So. Yeah, maybe he just said it. Pete Rodriguez win is. I'm gonna just retire off of that one. So you know, but yeah, Rodriguez got a ton of power on the feet. But we know what Natan Levy does, and Natan Levy, you can see right here, he's got 3 UFC fights, Brady, 45 minutes in the UFC cage, and in those 45 minutes, the man has attempted 33 takedowns. I kind of feel pretty safe that we can count on Natan Levy to go out there and do what he does best, which is grapple with these dudes, because we see him get sparked on the feet, man. You know, this is a fight that if it saw the scorecards, I would be fucking shocked. That's my way I'm looking at this fight, you know, because Pete Rodriguez has seen the scorecards once as an amateur, and that's in a lot of fights, you know. And his wins are over guys. I mean, you know, Jorge Olea, Yasser Guzman, Jose Nava, Roberto Pixley, and then, you know, a journalist with a big mouth and Mike Jackson, you know, I mean, like complete bum. So we don't really know what kind of level of competition he's going to be able to beat. So it's obviously a step up against Natan Levy. He's cutting down the lightweight for the first time in his career. Yeah, it doesn't look good for Pete Rodriguez, but that being said, I might bet Pete Rodriguez first round knockout. I might bet fight doesn't go to decision, and I might bet Levy by sub.
Yeah, I think those are all ways to play it. Wait, what was the second one you said?
A fight doesn't go to decision.
Yes. I thought you said fight goes. I was like, oh, I don't know.
Oh, God, no. yeah. And if I say dumb shit like that, Brady, just call me out. You know, I mean, like,
I heard you wrong.
I need your help. You know, we got to help each other. We're a team here on Stat Diggers. So when I say dumb shit, like, yeah, I like fight goes to decision for a Pete Rodriguez fight. You're like, wait. You know, so thank you.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, fight doesn't go under 2.5. Looks like money's coming in on the over 2.5, which, yeah, keep it coming. Under 2.5 right now is -185. Yeah, Natan Levy -275, one of the biggest favorites on the card. Pete Rodriguez +235. Natan Levy, very popular parlay piece this week. And Mark brings up an interesting point. He's saying, why? Pete has the better striking, and we haven't seen him in the grappling. We can't just assume it's bad. That is true, but we also can't assume it's good. So, yeah, it's not a line with Levy I want to mess around with. But what I do like is some of those props. Rodriguez KO 1, Levy sub 2, Levy sub 3, and then some violence props potentially. But, yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to play this fight. Kind of a sketchy fight, but there's a lot of ways to play it, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight. And Pete Rodriguez, you know, like there's a lot of missing information. So we can't, you know, it's not the kind of fight I would go too heavy on. Yeah. But I think there are some spots sticking out for sure, man.
Yep. What a fight. What a fight this is. All right. We will move on to the next fight. We have Julian Erosa going against Fernando Padilla. We have Julian Erosa, 33 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. Fernando Padilla, he is 26 years old, 6'1", with a 76-inch reach. We have Fernando Padilla, who is 7 years younger. He's going to have same height there and then a 2-inch reach advantage. Julian Erosa, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Sung Woo Choi. Submission win against Charles Jourdain. Decision win against Steven Peterson. Decision win against Hakeem Dawodu. And then a knockout loss to Alex Caceres. As far as Fernando Padilla, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Had a knockout win in his last 5. In his last fight, he's making his debut here, and I just want to double check something on the Julian Erosa side. So Julian Erosa, let me pull this up. There it is. So, yeah, okay, got it. All right, yeah, Weezy, I went and watched Padilla. I'm kind of surprised they're the same height because you watch tape on Padilla and he's like towering over all of his opponents, like towering over them. So to see that these guys are the same height is kind of interesting. Padilla, he is a 10th planet guy. I think there's a massive hole in this guy's game. And I think anybody that can wrestle and anybody that has cardio and submission defense is going to run right through this guy. Like this guy has the worst takedown defense I've ever seen in my life. It's horrible. It looks like he's borderline like pulling guard every time somebody shoots in on him. Like this guy literally probably has a 0% takedown defense. Anytime somebody tries to take him down, they get him down. He doesn't have the best get up game as well. He does threaten off his back a little bit, but he can lose a ton of minutes off of his back. And I've seen him off his back a ton in the footage that I saw. On the feet, he's very long, very rangy. He can give his opponents problems. He has some power, and he has good submission ability. He's a 10th planet guy, like I said, but I don't know. I feel like Erosa is going to have a path to victory here, and that path is going to be to mix in some takedowns. I think the striking could be close. It's probably going to be a war. Should be a fun fight. It's a Julian Erosa fight. It's a fun fight. Julian Erosa typically isn't the guy you want to lay juice on, though. I think he's like -1. 60 something like that, minus 170 last time I looked. So I'm probably going to be staying away from this fight for the most part, but the takedown defense of Padilla, I think, is a massive concern. Is Julian Erosa going to exploit that? Potentially, I think he should. But yeah, a fight I really don't want a ton to do with here, Weezy. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I like what I saw from Padilla's striking, but like you said, he reminds me a little bit of Fernie Garcia. When you watch Fernie Garcia on the regional scene, you just see a guy who gets taken down and then he just kind of stays there, and he's threatening with some submissions, but he's just losing minutes, and he seems happy to do that. But Padilla on the feet is really tall, really long. Yeah, he looks a lot taller than most of his opponents, but that's because he's a 6'1" featherweight, and Erosa is 6'1" as well. So he's going to be, facing off against somebody who's really long like him as well. And I've always loved Erosa's forward pressure and his volume. He's got a good chin too. He will absorb some punishment in order to kind of try to break you with his pace and his pressure and his conditioning. He absorbs just a little bit more than he lands on the feet, but he throws just a little bit more than his opponents do. 51% striking defense, though, for Julian Erosa. So, yeah, he does trust his chin. He does walk forward. He'll eat one to give one. And that's why he's always in exciting fights. So this is going to be a fun fight. But, you look at Padilla, this kid's been around, man. He turned pro at 18. He's got 18 professional fights. He's got an 8-year career. He's been around. He's finishing 85% of his wins. That's 12 of those 14 wins are coming inside the distance, and he's never been finished. So this is going to be a fun stylistic matchup. I think that these guys are going to go at it. I think that this card desperately needs this fight because this is going to be a really fun crowd pleaser of a fight. And, even though it's a slipshod card that's thrown together with a lot of lower level fighters, Erosa against Padilla is going to be a gem in the middle of this card. It's going to be an all-action fight between a couple of huge, long featherweights here. And, yeah, Padilla could still be getting a lot better, If he works on that takedown defense and learns how to use that 76-inch reach that he has at featherweight, he could become a problem here because he's durable, because, he's that long, and because he's got that 10th planet pedigree of jiu-jitsu where he can hunt for submissions off of his back, work with that rubber guard and that mission control position that they love so much. So, yeah, it's an interesting fight. But, yeah, I got to go with Erosa. But, once again, I won't be running to the window to lay juice on a guy like Julian Erosa who has not done well in that spot.
Yeah, fun fight. But as a bettor, this is not a fun fight. I do not want to touch this fight from a betting perspective. Erosa opened up minus 325.
Wow.
Imagine betting Erosa as a minus 325 favorite against anybody with that strike.
Especially against the guy that's younger, taller, and longer than him, too.
Yeah, that's wild. But it came in a lot. He's now minus 170. Padilla opened up plus 275. He's currently plus 145. This is a pass if I've ever seen one. Over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 plus money, plus 126, under minus 156. I actually lean the over, but I wouldn't bet it. So yeah, I'm passing on this fight overall.
Yeah, I mean, Padilla's a really good finisher, and Erosa's been finished in 60% of his losses, and he's been finished in 5 of 6 UFC losses. So maybe like a finish only prop on Padilla could be a cheeky way to play this because he's the underdog here. You could get some plus money on it maybe because he's such a good finisher, because he's been so durable. Might be a cheeky way to go. But other than that, I watched a couple of Padilla's fights. I still need to watch more. I need more information before I do anything here.
Yeah, that finish only could be good because in 18 fights, the guy's never been finished. He has a good chin. He's a 10th planet guy, 0 losses by knockout or sub, whereas Julian Erosa has been knocked out 6 times. So, yeah, finish only could be the move if it's the right price.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll see how it all goes because this is going to be an interesting fight. But, yeah, with Padilla making his debut, in the Apex, maybe it'll be a good situation for him.
Yep, for sure. All right, let us move on. We have the people's main event. The chat was fired up about this one earlier. I'm fired up about this one. And Weezy, I'm sure you're very fired up about this one. We have Martin Buday going against Jake Collier. We have Martin Buday with a 31. He's 31 with a 6'4" height, 77-inch reach. Jake Collier, 34 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. Martin Buday, 3 years younger, 1-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Martin Buday is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He had a knockout win on the Contender Series. He had a decision win against Chris Barnett and then a decision loss against Lucas Bresky that the judges gave him the win. As far as Jake Collier, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Jean Volante, a decision loss to Carlos Felipe, a submission win against Chase Sherman, a decision loss to Andrei Arlovsky, and then a knockout loss to you're reading this correctly, Chris Barnett. This fight's a mess. This fight is a pick'em, and I'm not sure how anybody could be confident in this fight. I think this is all going to come down to the game plan of Martin Buday. If Buday comes out there and gives the same game plan he did in the Bresky fight, which was weird. Like you take a look at Buday, his biggest attribute is that size and how he uses that size. He uses that size as a weapon. He pushes guys against the cage. He bullies them. He holds them there. He does damage in the clinch against the cage. He did none of that against Lucas Bresky, which was questionable. I'm not sure what he was doing in that fight. He still won the fight, but he got outlanded almost 2-1 in that fight. He should have clearly lost it. If Martin Buday comes in here with that same game plan, he's going to lose to Jake Collier super easily. But if Martin Buday comes in here and goes and does what he does, push Collier against the cage, God forbid, take him down, use that BJJ brown belt, that'd be nice. If he does that, I think he can win this fight. Just use that size as a weapon, use that cardio as a weapon. Martin Buday is a heavyweight, an actual heavyweight. This guy could never make middleweight. You could cut his leg off. He won't make middleweight. This guy's huge for the division. Jake Collier, he's a middleweight fighting up at heavyweight. So Buday, I think, uses the size to win this fight. But Uncle Weezy, you will not see me putting my money on this fight. Everybody was betting on the Usman-Tafa fight last week. I stayed away, which I guess I should have bet it because I got the prediction 100% right. I said Usman by decision. But even then, it probably wasn't even worth the freaking sweat with Usman doing the stanky leg a couple of times. I'm not betting on this fight. This is a terrible fight. I'm shocked people are betting on this and excited for it, but it looks like they are. And this could be the fight, the talk of the town this week. But big giant pass for me.
Yeah, I got a feeling this is going to be the Twitter fight of the week where people are going to be very confident about it, and there's going to be shoey bets and all this stuff. And like you broke it down perfectly. Buday's got the size; he's the natural heavyweight. Collier's the more talented mixed martial artist, probably much better boxer for sure. And it's right there in the distance striking stats, right? Buday, 2 UFC fights, 26 minutes in the cage, but he's landing 4.77, and his opponents land 7.15 per minute spent at distance. He's throwing less volume, and he's landing about 2.4 less significant strikes per minute at distance than his opponents. Then you look over to the Collier side, and he's landing about 1.7 more distance strikes per minute than his opponents do, and he throws almost 5 more distance strike attempts per minute than his opponents. So even for a fat man in Jake Collier, he throws a ton of volume and he stays very busy in those striking exchanges. And so he's also going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here, but it's going to be Buday, who's 6'4", while Collier is 6'3". So Buday will be the bigger dude. But Buday is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player, very good. And he's got that size. And if he puts that weight on you in the clinch, it's hard to get out of there. And Jake Collier's fights are taking place at striking range about 71% of the time. And for Buday, it's about 70%. So they're both spending about 30% of their fights in control time positions. And I think that's where Buday will be doing the better work. Even though we've never even seen Buday attempt a takedown in the UFC, we have seen him rack up almost 30% control time due to the fact that he can cage push you, hold you there, and do some damage while he's there as well. He's even got a knockdown from the clinch against Fat Barnett. So Yeah, well, there's a lot of fats on this. You got Fat Collier, and then Fat Collier has fought Fat Vellante. He's fought Fat Barnett. And then Buday, who's, not a skinny man himself, has also got a win over Fat Barnett. So, yeah, all the fats that are there in the heavyweight division are kind of in the histories of these fighters, including one in Fat Collier, who's won himself. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not getting to the window on this one. If I was on the Buday side, I'd want to see him at least attempt a takedown or two. I'd want to see him really try to get the fight into the clinch. And if I'm on the Collier side, I want him to box this dude up. And we saw, Collier's last performance against Fat Barnett was good. He basically, there's a lot of refs that would have stopped that fight. He was absolutely kicking his ass. And when you're that fat and you empty the gas tank like that, trying to get a stoppage when your opponent is legitimately hurt, of course you're going to fucking gas out. And then there wound up being wrestling exchanges in the second round. They really went to a scramble. And when you could tell, that was the moment when Jake had to scramble after already emptying the tank in the first round, trying to finish this guy, that he just gave up. And then you saw Barnett get to his back because Jake couldn't scramble anymore. And then that was when the fight ended, when Chris got that position on him. So, Collier has been looking good because, he beat Arlovsky.
And he beat Felipe.
Dude, this guy could be 5-0 in his last 5 fights. So if you're on Buday, don't forget that Jake Collier, while the record doesn't look good recently, man, a couple of close split decision loss against better strikers than Buday in Felipe and Arlovsky, and a win against Fat Vellante, a win against Chase Sherman. And he probably could have gotten the win against Barnett if it had been a different referee in there. So, yeah, it's an interesting fight, man. But look, Collier's more experienced. He's fought the better brand of competition over his career. He's the better boxer, and we can't really count on Buday to initiate grappling exchanges. We just found that out in the Bresky fight. So, yeah, I'm going with Fat Collier here.
Yep, I don't know who's going to win, and quite frankly, I could care less about this fight. I'll let everybody else bet on it. I am not. One thing that scares me on the Collier side is, yeah, he won the Felipe fight and the Arlovsky fight, but the judges scored the other way, and I think that's because Collier just shows no power. So I could see a situation where they are at range. Collier's piecing him up, landing more, but Buday landing the bigger shots, and that's kind of how Buday won that Bresky fight, just landing the more impactful shots. So I can see Buday even winning minutes on the feet just by landing more and clearly getting outlanded. We've seen it happen a couple times with Collier, but obviously the path to victory for Buday is in the clinch there. And if he does that, I think he wins. But like I said, I could care less about this fight. I'm surprised he didn't come up with like a TV show idea, Weezy.
Oh yeah, I didn't have anything in the chamber for this week, and maybe Bootsy's got an idea, but he can't do anything with bark. So, I don't know if he can actually articulate it to us.
Jake Collier is now the slight favorite. Money coming in on him. He opened up plus 100, currently minus 119. And then Martin Buday opened up minus 120, currently minus 101. The over under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 135. The under 2.5 is plus 105. If Buday gets a takedown, he's finishing this fight, but it's not something he seems like he's too interested in doing for some reason. So it probably does go over. It's probably sloppy. It's probably greasy. It's probably a split. The judges probably get it wrong, and everybody's probably very upset. And I'm going to be upset because I sat there and watched this fight for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I can remember, what was it? Oh, I remember the Fat Vellante against Fat Barnett fight. And that line was close, right? And a lot of people were on the over 1.5 rounds. And we were telling them on Stat Theories, look, just don't bet this fight. Don't bet these fights. These guys are terrible, And a lot of people got smoked on that fight. But yeah, that was the birth of the spinning fat kick there by Chris Barnett when he would just absolutely spark Vellante there at the beginning of the second round. And yeah, this fight has the same kind of feeling as that fight. It's a close line. There seem to be confident takes on both sides here, and I don't want to be part of it like you.
I don't want to be part of it at all. We can move on to we could talk about this one a little bit, Weezy. We have Josh Quinlan going against Angelusa. No, he's going against Trey Waters is his name, right?
Yeah, Waters. Yeah, no, I've got the Lusa stats up there because I didn't even realize that this got changed. I had my Tapology window up from yesterday, and I didn't see that they added this fight. But we can bring up that Lusa Quinlan page because we've got Quinlan's stats there.
So there it is. I'll pull it up on Tapology and we'll talk about it a little bit. Because I did watch tape on Trey Waters. What I like in this fight more than anything is probably the violence, man. Both these guys are super dangerous. Trey Waters finishing, I believe, 6 out of his 7 wins. Josh Quinlan finishing all of his wins. Quinlan made his debut against poor Jason Witt, giving Jason Witt like his 8th knockout loss. He just destroyed him, deaded him there. Yeah, what I like about Trey Waters is this guy's freaking huge. He's 6'5" as a welterweight. Like, that is massive. 77-inch reach. So he's going to be bigger. He's going to have a big reach advantage here. I don't like the striking defense, and I think the striking defense could give him some problems. He does fight with his hands very, very low. Seems to have a lot of confidence on his chin. I have seen him wobble before, but right after he was wobbled, he ended up knocking out his opponent. I think somebody's getting slept here, plain and simple. I do slightly lean Josh Quinlan. I think this guy has the absolute death touch, and I think he probably touches the chin of Waters. I would like to see Quinlan go for some takedowns. He has shown a little bit of ability to get takedowns, and when he does get on top, he's super dangerous with ground and pound. Has some submission game. I think he's even a black belt. But I do slightly lean Quinlan, but I'm going to be looking at this fight is going to be the under 1.5 rounds, the under 2.5 rounds potentially. But I don't even know if we have a money line on this fight yet. I'm going to refresh. Did you see one, Weezy?
No, I haven't seen anything on Bet Online. And since they're usually first to market, I haven't seen anything yet.
Yep, nothing. So we'll have to see what the line is. I'm expecting Quinlan to be I don't want to say a big favorite, but like -150 to -200 potentially, just because we have Waters coming in here. Very short notice, and he fought a week ago, Weezy.
Yeah.
A week ago.
Yeah. Yeah, he beat Jalen Fuller, and one of my favorite LFA moments of all time was Jalen Fuller's last fight, the one before the Waters fight. Comes out to the Backstreet Boys, lip syncing, and then he beats his opponent. Then they put the Backstreet Boys back on the intercom. He's lip syncing while his opponent is literally dead on the canvas, right? And then they pan around the crowd, and everybody in the crowd is singing the Backstreet Boys. It was a true moment there for his last opponent there, Waters' last opponent. Fun fight, but this guy is huge, dude. 6'5" for a welterweight. So it's going to be an interesting fight. But like you said, he just fought on the 14th. So he fought 9 days ago. And now he's going to be making a short notice turnaround. I think that will be about 2 weeks from the last fight when he steps into the cage. And he went into the second round with Jalen Fuller in that fight. So if he has any damage at all, I mean, he must have been cleared, which is strange because this fight was just made today. So they had to have underwent some kind of a medical test and cleared him to fight. So he must be ready to go. Jalen Fuller's no joke. That was a good win in the last one. And he won it 253 around 2, like you see up there on the screen. And then before that on Dana White's Contender Series, gets choked out by Gabriel Bonfim, who looks to be an absolute stud. And then we see a win over a 3-0 guy, a 1-0 guy, a 7-6 guy. So yeah, we got some work to do. We got more to find out about Trey Waters. But like you said, Brady, violence. I'm looking to smash that line wherever it's going to be opened at 1.5. And maybe we can get plus 130, plus 140 or something like we got on Wells Semmelsberger, like we're going to be talking about later with the Brundage Vieira fight. Violence is what I'm looking for here.
Yeah, this could be concerning. I don't know for a fact, but I believe this is the fight a week ago where Fuller did rock him pretty bad. Like, he had him on the skate. So he did take some damage, if that's the fight I remember watching. So that's not good. And then he ended up knocking out Fuller like a second later after he was hurt. So yeah, he took some damage and he's coming back a week later. And I wonder if he's even going to make weight, like making this weight class on a week's notice when you're 6'5". Like, we never. How is he going to do that? So I got to see the weight
cuts. Two weight cuts in a short period of time, coming off a fight. Yeah, dude. This Trey Waters has got to be a little bit crazy. Got to be, because this guy Quinlan's been on the gas and it's been proven. You know, he's gotten caught on the gas with like pure steroids. You know, he's not even like pissing hot for estrogen blockers, where it's like, I took the steroids 6 weeks ago. Yeah. Like, he comes into the cage gassed up, and like you can hear him breathing and shit. This dude's fucking crazy, this Quinlan guy, and he's got ridiculous power, death touch, like you said. So, yeah, I'm gonna be looking to slam violence in this spot, and yeah, Quinlan probably gets the job done. It was going to be interesting because you couldn't knock out Angalusa with a shovel.
Yeah.
But this guy Waters now, you know, is going to be coming in on short notice, second weight cut. You know, Quinlan probably gets the job done here inside the distance.
Yeah, I think violence is definitely the right answer, especially with the short notice, especially with the crazy weight cut you got to expect out of this guy. 2 weight cuts in the span of a couple weeks. No distance, under 2.5, under 1.5 even could all be plays to look at this week for sure.
I couldn't agree more, man.
All right, moving on, we have Marcos Rogério de Lima going against Waldo Cortes-Acosta. We got de Lima, 37 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. Acosta, 31 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. Waldo Acosta, 6 years younger, 3-inch height advantage, and a 3-inch reach advantage. Marcos Rogério de Lima, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A submission loss to Alexander Romanov, a decision win against Maurice Green, a knockout win against Ben Rothwell, a decision loss to Blagoy Ivanov, a submission win against Andrei Arlovsky. As far as Waldo Cortes-Acosta, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, had a knockout win on the Contender Series, had a decision win against Jared Vanderaa, and then a decision win against Chase Sherman. So this is obviously a massive step up in the competition for Waldo Cortes-Acosta, just due to the fact that he's fought Chase Sherman and Jared Vanderaa, the 2 very low-level heavyweights here. And yeah, I think it's a very, very good matchup for Marcos Rogério de Lima. We saw Waldo Cortes-Acosta really struggle with the leg kicks of Jared Vanderaa. Well, guess what Marcos Rogério de Lima does? He kicks legs very, very hard. We saw Waldo Cortes struggle with the takedown defense, the grappling outside the UFC. And Chase Sherman, Jared Vanderaa, Danilo Souza, all strikers have not been able to exploit that. I think Marcos Rogério de Lima, who is a black belt, should be able to go out there and take this guy down and expose his ground game. Yeah, I think it's a really good matchup for Marcos Rogério de Lima. It's just, do I want to lay chalk on a guy who's 37, a guy that has about 1 round of cardio, and that's where I'm kind of leaning to passing. But yeah, I think it's a very winnable fight if his cardio can hold up. And it's weird, like in some fights, Marcos Rogério de Lima's cardio looks good. Like in the Maurice Green fight, he was able to wrestle for 3 rounds, no problem. And then in some fights, he just looks very, very bad and has nothing left after 5 minutes. So another sketchy fight, a fight that I really do like Marcos Rogério de Lima, and I am really tempted on pulling the trigger. It's just betting on guys with poor cardio is not something I really want to do, especially at chalk. And Marcos Rogério de Lima does seem like a very untrustworthy guy, but the path's there, the leg kicks, the wrestling, all of that. I think he can expose Acosta here. But I don't know if I'll get to the betting window. And this line's getting steamed as well, which is kind of interesting. I was thinking about waiting and seeing where the line goes. I thought more money would come in on Acosta, but that does not seem to be the case. Looks like de Lima, yeah, now minus 155. So I don't know. I'm probably going to pass Weezy, but I think de Lima has all the tools to win this one. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Rogério de Lima, if you look over at the grappling stats, he's in control time positions about 66% of his fights. That's 81 minutes in the UFC cage. But de Lima's a striker. You know, that's really what he is at heart. Now, he's a mixed martial artist. He's going to use whatever path you give him. But Waldo Cortes-Acosta really is pretty much a pure boxer, and a very good one at that. But de Lima's a kickboxer, you know, so Cortes not really using a lot of kicks. You know, I got to believe that he'll probably be a little bit outgunned on the feet. Now, he's younger. He's going to have the better cardio here. He's got the natural heavyweight body, while Rogério de Lima is just a blown up light heavyweight. So it's a lot of interesting things going on here, because with de Lima, I think you have the power advantage on the feet. That guy's kicks, like he's looking to kick, he's looking to punt heads into the cheap seats. And when he throws those leg kicks, he's trying to break your leg with those. You know, every kick that he throws to the leg, to the body, and to the head is with fight-ending intentions. And I'm talking about de Lima here. Now, Cortes-Acosta is going to have to work on closing that distance there, because de Lima is going to be using those kicks. And if he's heavy on his lead leg as a boxer, I think de Lima is going to chop him up while this is on the feet. But that's for about a round. After a round, if this guy hasn't completely destroyed your lead leg or knocked you out, there's not going to be anything left in the tank. Now, his cardio did look good against Maurice Green, but Maurice Green is a 6'7" guy who smokes with cigarettes and his true passion is crochet. So yeah, I mean, like, De Lima looked good there. He couldn't. I mean, he folds like a lawn chair every time somebody tries to take him down. He's got the athleticism that you would expect from a 6'7" guy that smokes with cigarettes. So when you see De Lima in there against real fighters like Blagoy Ivanov, like Arlovsky, we're not really seeing, him get those kind of takedowns that he was easily getting against Maurice Green. And Waldo Cortes-Acosta is a good athlete. The guy was a professional baseball player before he was a mixed martial artist. Guy liked to fight. He got kicked out of baseball because he kicked the shit out of one of his teammates. The reason he did that, he said he felt he was disrespected. So this guy's clearly a fighter. Now he's finally doing, instead of kicking your teammates' asses, why not go kick somebody else's ass, that's not on your team? Better way to do it, better way to make a living. So here we go. Is Acosta going to be able to keep this fight? Is going to be able to weather the early storm against De Lima? Because if he does, I think he's going to win the second and the third round here. But we could see De Lima take that grappling approach that he took against Maurice Green and try to get this fight to the ground. But man, I think De Lima is going to be very dangerous early. I think he's got more ways to win this fight. I think he can win it by knockout. I think he can win it by submission. I think he can win it by decision if he gets the wrestling going in 2 out of the 3 rounds. But man, if he doesn't get him out of there earlier, we're seeing De Lima get subbed in 5 of his 6 UFC losses. And that's basically, one of them was just somebody putting his forearm over his throat, so yeah, I like De Lima here. I think he actually gets the job done. I'm probably take a look at De Lima first round knockout. I think that's how he gets a lot of his work done. And if he doesn't do that, then I'm worried about him potentially gassing out down the stretch here and Waldo Cortes-Acosta knocking him out.
Yeah, that's probably responsible for me to just pass here, especially with missing the line. I'm going to sit back and wait. I really thought more money would come in on Acosta. I thought there's some hype on Acosta. He's undefeated in the UFC. He's looking good. But no, it looks like money's coming in on Marcos Rogério de Lima. And that's because he just has so many paths here. Like you said, he could take this guy down, sub him. He could knock him out. He can grind him out. But yeah, the cardio is just the one thing kind of holding me back here. And there are some things I like about Acosta. I think he has good volume. He's much bigger than De Lima. He's much younger than De Lima. He has much better cardio than De Lima. So I don't think it's all one-way traffic for De Lima here, but I just think De Lima has much more paths. So yeah, no bet for me as of now. And it looks like I kind of missed the line at this point, so probably going to pass. But yeah, first round prop for De Lima could be interesting. I think 7 out of his 9 UFC wins have came in that first round. Other than that, he has 2 decision wins.
Yeah, and for De Lima, just as a whole in the UFC, 12 of his 15 fights have went under 1.5 rounds. That's an 80% clip. And right now you can get the under 1.5 rounds at plus 116 on BetOnline Sportsbook. That's a 46.3% implied probability. So you're talking about a guy who 80% of his fights are finishing under 1.5 rounds, and you're paying 46% for the under 1.5. It feels like, a good spot. Like the under 1.5 would, even if you lost the bet, chances are, you would say after the 7.5 minutes was over, damn, that was close. Almost cashed that, kind of like with Semmelsberger Wells last week.
Yeah. Don't know if I'll get there. We did bet the under in the Rogério de Lima Arlovsky fight, but Arlovsky's been finished like 50 times. Acosta's still never been finished, and that's probably the one thing holding me back. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know if I'll have any action on this fight. It's another sketchy fight on this card that I don't know if I want to put any money on it.
I agree with you, man. I mean, like laying juice on any heavyweight is terrifying. Yeah, laying juice on Marcos Rogério de Lima is even more terrifying. And yeah, here we go again. It's going to be a fun fight, though. This is a good fight. This is one where when it starts, whether or not I have money on it, I'll be like, okay, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, I think this next thing is going to be fun as well. So Ducote Vieira is off the card. which kind of sucks. I was looking forward to that one. But we have Rodolfo Vieira going against Cody Brundage. We have Rodolfo Vieira, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach. Cody Brundage, 28 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach. Cody Brundage, 5 years younger. It's going to be Rodolfo Vieira with a 1-inch reach advantage there. Same height there, 6 foot. Rodolfo Vieira is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A submission win against Oscar Pihota. A submission win against the very handsome Saperbag Safarov, a submission loss to Anthony Hernandez, a submission win against Dustin Stoltzfus, and then a decision loss to Chris Curtis. As far as Cody Brundage, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against Nick Maximov, lost that fight by decision. He beat Dolce Langambula by submission, Trey Shangor by knockout, and then lost to Michał Oleksiejczuk by knockout. So yeah, what I like here a lot, honestly, I think it's a good matchup for Rodolfo Vieira. Obviously, you don't want to go out there and lay minus 300 on Rodolfo Vieira. I'm never doing that again after the Fluffy Hernandez fight, but this feels like a matchup you should go out here and win. Cody Brundage is a guy that he's a very good wrestler. I love his style a lot, but I think this is a tough matchup for him. If Rodolfo Vieira gets on top of Brundage, I really have concerns about Brundage's game off his back because he hasn't really shown much. Against Maximov, got put into a couple bad spots, could not really work his way back up that well. Against Michał Oleksiejczuk, just showed absolutely nothing off his back. And then against William Knight, showed absolutely nothing off his back. If Rodolfo Vieira gets on top of you, it's going to be a very big problem. You know, he gave up his back to Nick Maximov. If you give your back to Rodolfo Vieira, there's going to be a serious issue. So I think Vieira submits him in the first round here. I think one takedown is the fight's over shortly after. But yeah, like I said, laying chalk on Rodolfo Vieira is not something I plan on doing. But what I do plan on doing is betting the violence. I think under 1.5 is solid. 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, including 4 fights for Cody Brundage. 3 of 4 have went under 1.5 rounds. The Dolce fight ended in the first. Gore fight ended in the first, and then the Michał fight ended in the first. I think this one as well ends in the first as well. I think for Brundage to win this fight, he's going to come out here and have to pressure very early, and I think he could have some success doing that, but I think it's also going to be to his detriment when Vieira does get a takedown here and get on top. So I like Vieira here. I like him to finish this fight, but what I like more than anything is the violence, kind of cover both sides in this one. Weezy, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I like violence here as well because, you know, Rodolfo Vieira's striking is terrible. It's bad, dude. I mean, I remember that Fluffy Hernandez fight. It looked like, you know, he was like a 5th grade girl in a street fight there, the way he was throwing his punches. But Brundage has got a lot cleaner striking than Rodolfo Vieira does. And Brundage has got the wrestling background in order to try to stop those takedowns. And let's face it, Rodolfo Vieira's takedowns aren't great. I mean, if he went 0 for 20 trying to take down Chris Curtis, 0 for 20. You know, and it's not like Curtis is this guy that's got like this Jose Aldo-esque takedown defense. I mean, Chris Curtis was taken down and beaten a lot on the regional scene, you know, by good fighters that actually know how to wrestle. So this is going to be interesting. Will Cody be able to stop these takedowns and keep this fight on the feet? Because if he can, he's going to be live at plus 235. And if he can't, but can just last for a round and a half with Rodolfo Vieira's pathetic conditioning, he might be able to stop takedowns in the second half of the fight and then land the big shots that could get there. But God damn it, Cody, every time you're on your back, bad things happen, and they happen quickly, and they're happening against guys. Look, what does Rodolfo Vieira do to William Knight on the ground?
Oh,
I mean, it's not even close. What does Rodolfo Vieira do to Michał Oleksiejczuk on the ground? It's not even close. This guy is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, and he's not a world champion that did it off of his back with arm bars and triangles. He did it with top pressure. That's how he works. So what Rodolfo Vieira does best is what the biggest hole in Cody Brundage's game is. So Cody's going to have to be single-minded about staying off of his back, about not letting that ass hit the mat at any point, because he just doesn't show enough off of his back for me to believe that Rodolfo can be there for 60 seconds and it might be enough to find a finish. But also, I don't feel like I can lay minus 275 on Rodolfo Vieira, knowing A, that his conditioning is ass, knowing B, that is striking his ass, knowing C that the dude, you know, I'm hearing through the grapevine from a couple of different people, the guy's got a serious confidence problem, and he's a lot more worried about his gym right now than he is about his MMA future, you know. It's an interesting matchup. You know, Cody's younger. He's hungrier. He's the better striker. He's the better wrestler. But Rodolfo's skill set, and when he does what he's good at, it's what Cody's really bad at. So I could see this fight going a few different ways. It's an interesting one because if Cody can just figure out a way to last for 7.5 minutes, he can find a finish in the second half of this fight. I'm pretty convinced of that. But he needs to keep his ass off that mat.
Yep, that'll be a challenge for sure. Who the heck is Sean K? Is that Sean V with a K? Did you change it, Sean? Sean K?
Because I don't think that's Sean K, man. Oh, wait, yeah, okay, yes. So
this is something Sean V would say though. So it's
yeah, it is, man. That's for sure.
Vieira's chin is better than Brundage's too. Yeah, this is something Sean would say.
Vieira does have a good chin. Vieira gets blasted in the face, you know, a lot and doesn't go down. And that's because Vieira has horseshit striking. I mean, it's terrible, dude. You know, so you look at Brundage, he's got 67% striking defense. Rodolfo Vieira has 52% striking defense. So, yeah, I mean, like he shows off that chin because he blocks punches with his face.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I'm going Vieira sub 1, but it could get interesting if it does get out of the first. But I think one takedown, it's done, man. I think Cody offensively, his wrestling's really good, but off his back, it just leaves a lot to be desired there. Against lower level guys, against Vieira, you're not going to want that. So yeah, under 1.5 now, minus 115. I think if you guys have bet US, I still think it's like plus 135. I think the under solid, the fight doesn't go to decisions. It's probably a really good parlay piece with Vieira early. Brundage, I think Brundage also could potentially finish early as well, but if this fight does go late, it does favor Brundage. I think violence is probably the best way to play this, and I'd be shocked if anybody's parlaying Vieira this week, but hey, maybe they are. But yeah, I won't be parlaying Vieira at minus 275 this week, that's for sure.
Yeah, I won't either, and yeah, I do think that the under is probably the best way to play this fight. But yeah, Vieira is very scary with his top pressure and with his grappling once he gets on top. So yeah, Cody's going to have to make sure to try to stop that takedown because one takedown from Vieira could be all it takes here.
Yep, for sure. All right, couple more fights. We have the co-main event. We have Caio Borralho going against Michał Oleksiejczuk. We got Caio, 30 years old, 5'10" with a 75-inch reach. Michał Oleksiejczuk, 28 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. We got Michał 2 years younger. It's going to be Michał with a 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Caio Borralho, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, had a couple wins on the Contender Series, made his debut against Gadzhi Omargadzhiev, won that fight by decision, beat Armen Petrosyan by decision, and then beat Makhmud Muradov by decision. As far as Michał Oleksiejczuk, 4-1. In his last 5 fights, decision win against Modestas Bukauskas, knockout win against Shamil Gamzatov, a decision loss against Dustin Jacoby, a knockout win against Sam Alvey, and then a knockout win against Cody Brundage in the first round his last time out. Yeah, Caio Borralho, I believe, is the biggest, or he's tied, I think, with the biggest favorite on the card up there with Stephanie Egger, and I think for a very good reason. I mean, he has a clear path to victory. Michał Oleksiejczuk, a 43% takedown defense. I think that is going to be a huge problem in this matchup against Caio, who's very smart. He's going to wrestle. He's going to get the fight down to the mat. BJJ black belt, hasn't used it yet, but I think that could very well come into play here. We've seen Michał Oleksiejczuk sub by Crute in the first. We saw him get subbed by OSP in the second. I think Caio is going to be very live to get a submission at some point in this fight. I just think his ground game's on another level than Michał here. On the feet, Michał probably has an advantage. Very good volume out of Michał. He mixes it up to the body very well. He pressures very well. Does a lot of great things on the feet, but the takedown is going to be an issue in this one, and ultimately that's why he's a very big underdog in this matchup. So give me Caio. I'm going to be looking at the submission prop, but judging by the under, that's completely juiced. Probably not going to get a good line on it. So not sure I'm going to be pulling the trigger on anything here, Weezy, but yeah, should be a pretty solid spot for Caio. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, southpaw versus southpaw matchup. So that's going to make it very interesting on the feet. You know, these guys are definitely a clash of styles because Oleksiejczuk, with his striking, he's a southpaw. He loves the pressure, throws a lot of volume, and he mixes up his targets really well. Great body punches for Oleksiejczuk. And when you look at the distance striking numbers, 5.21 landed per minute, only 4.42 absorbed. But it's funny because his opponents actually throw more volume than him. But he's got a 67% striking defense and an almost 48% striking accuracy. So he does great work on the feet. Even though he's throwing 2.4 less distance strike attempts per minute, he's landing about 0.8 more strikes per minute at distance. So Michał does great work on the feet, and he's got a lot of power there too. 7 knockdowns in 10 fights, and 5 of his 6 wins in the UFC are by knockout. So Michał can break dudes, he can knock dudes out, and his striking and his pressure are serious problems for his opponent. The problem with the pressure that Oleksiejczuk puts on his opponents is that Caio has got a very martial arts traditional type of stance. So he's a southpaw. He's actually a righty, though. Caio taught himself how to fight southpaw after watching Conor McGregor fight because he wanted to have that unique look and a good straight right hand that he could use as his power punch, but then he could also use his check right hook as a power punch as well. So he's got that up and down style where he bounces up and down. He stands sideways. And what he does when he strikes is what karate guys do so well, which is catch you coming in. And Oleksiejczuk is going to be walking on to everything that Caio throws. And Caio's very accurate on the feet. I think his striking is extremely underrated. I think people think of Caio Borralho as a lay and pray grappler. His striking is very, very good. And he's a problem being a southpaw with that unique type of style. And he's not a natural southpaw, too. So he stands southpaw, but he's got power in both hands. And then you look at Caio, 6 of 8 on his takedown attempts in 3 fights. So he's averaging 2.05 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is really good. But then you look at the control time, 59% control time for, while allowing less than 15%. So that he's winning 80% of the control time positions that he's in, and his fights are in control time positions almost 75% of the time. So Caio is not only talented on the feet, not only is he a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a brown belt in Judo, okay, who's training with Damian Maia. The striking is there. The conditioning is there. The wrestling is there. The grappling is there. And most importantly, it's the mind. He's not going to put himself in dumb situations. He's not going to strike against the striker. He's not going to pull a Curtis Blades on Saturday and decide, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show everybody that my striking is better than Oleksiejczuk's, and I'm not going to grapple with him to make that point. Caio Borralho won't be doing that. You can lay minus 300 on Caio Borralho, and it's probably a plus EV bet because he fights so smart, because he thinks, because he puts together game plans and sticks to them, and because he's not one-dimensional. If plan A isn't working, there can be a plan B and a plan C. The guy's toolbox is vast, to quote one Conor McGregor, whose toolbox is not vast. Caio Borralho does have a vast toolbox. It's not just a straight left hand. It's not just a first-round knockout that gets him to win fights. He can win minutes and find several ways to do so to get his hand raised at the end. Caio Borralho, definitely one of my favorite fighters, and Oleksiejczuk as well. I'm a big fan of his as well. So this is going to be an interesting one. I like Caio Borralho here. I think he gets it done by decision, but I would not rule out a finish, and I think that the under 1.5 or the under 2.5 at minus 165 is a decent look.
Yeah, if he doesn't sub Michał here, I'm convinced he's never going to finish anybody in the UFC. Like, this is a tailor-made matchup for him to finally go and get that finish. So I'm hoping he gets it because I'll probably be betting that he gets it. Caio should be able to sub Michał. I mean, there should be levels on the mat here, and this fight is going to take place on the ground. So I don't see why he shouldn't sub him. So hopefully to get a good price on it, but I don't know. Doesn't seem like it because this under is juiced to minus 165, the over plus 135. And yeah, I like Caio as a potential parlay piece, but do you parlay him with gas bag Rodolfo Vieira? Do you parlay him with Stephanie Egger? Do you parlay him with Natan Levy? I mean, I don't know. So I think it's a solid parlay piece, but I don't know if there's another leg that I'd like to pair him up with this week. But yeah, he should go out here and win this fight.
Maybe Egger.
Maybe
Egger. I'm not entirely sure how Irina Alekseeva wins this fight, short of a Russian Ronda armbar. We did see, Mayra Bueno Silva get an armbar on Egger, but I mean, Mayra Bueno Silva's guard is ridiculous. You are in that guard for less than 10 seconds and something's broken.
Yeah. So maybe Egger, but I got enough of parlaying WMA last night, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's always a sweat doing that, so we'll see. But yeah, Caio should get this done. All right, main event time. We have Song Yadong going against Ricky Simón. Before we get into it, if you guys have not smashed the like button, be sure to do so. Thank you for all 166 of you for hanging out with us on a Sunday, breaking down UFC Vegas 72. We have a 5-round fight, which this fight we were supposed to watch last week, which they moved to this week because this week did need a main event. And I'm kind of glad they did. For one, this card definitely needed some help. And then for two, I'm really glad this fight's going to be 5 rounds. So I think it deserves to be 5 rounds here. We have Song Yadong, who's 25 years old, 5'8" with a 67-inch reach. Ricky Simón, 30 years old, 6'6" with a 69-inch reach. We have Song Yadong, 5 years younger. We have Song Yadong with a 2-inch height advantage and then a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Song Yadong is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss to Kyler Phillips. Decision win against Casey Kenny. Knockout win against Julio Arce. Knockout win against Marlon Moraes. And then a knockout loss against Corey Sandhagen. As far as Ricky Simón, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Ray Borg. Submission win against Catalano Perillo. A decision win against Brian Kelleher, a knockout win against Rafael Assunção, and then a submission win against Jack Shore. I forget, Weezy, were we able to break down this fight before it got moved last week on Stat Diggers or no?
I don't think we
I forget.
I forget too, dude. I know I had it in my stats. No, I think we did break this one down. I mean, but either way, this is a great main event. I'm really looking forward to this one. The bantamweight division, Brady, is so stacked, so talented. The top 20 in this division is just a list of killers from 1 until 20. We got 2 of them here squaring off, and it's a great fucking fight.
Yeah, JR in the chat saying Uriah Faber, never forget.
Yeah, I know, man.
Ricky Simon's never going to live that down. He's always going to be chinny because of that Uriah Faber fight. But the dude's tough as nails. I don't know what happened in that Faber fight, but that was weird. So I believe last week I was going with Simón from a 3-round perspective. Honestly, 5 rounds doesn't really change much for me. We haven't seen Ricky Simón in the 4th and 5th. We have seen Song in the 4th round before, but I think Simón should be fine. But this is a fight where it's a phenomenal fight. Don't get me wrong. I'm really looking forward to it as a fan, but from a betting perspective, just nothing really sticking out here. I lean Simón ever so slightly. He's -120, slight favorite. Seems about right to me. I think he mixes in the takedowns. We've seen Song struggle with that before. And Ricky Simon's a guy that, and I wanted to ask you this, Weezy. Ricky Simón is a guy that's landing 5.59 takedowns per 50 minutes. That has to be like one of the best in the UFC, right?
Well, it is. I mean, there are guys who get more than that, but I'll tell you one thing. They don't have 115 minutes in the UFC cage. It's about sample size with these things. And if you, like Mokaev probably has more than 5.59 takedowns per 15 minutes, but he won't when he has 115 minutes in the UFC cage. You know what I'm saying? So somebody like Simon is somebody that is just wrestling at an elite level in an elite weight class.
Yep, for sure. I mean, it's just wild. So what do you feel about this fight, Weezy? I forget who you were picking last week, but what do you got for this one? Does the 5 rounds really change anything out of your analysis from last week?
Not much, no, because I know what I can count on from Ricky, and that's wrestling. The guy's wrestling is next level, even at this level. I mean, the guy is in there with some of the best that the division has to offer. Merab Dvalishvili, for instance, he's got a win over that guy. So we've seen Ricky Simón grapple at a very, very high level during his entire UFC tenure, and that spans 10 fights. He's 8-2. Yadong's got 11 fights, 8-2 with a draw. Evidently, Song Yadong is not 25 years old. That's the word on the street, Brady, is that this guy is a fucking liar about his age, and he's probably at least 30 or 31. Because if you look at the stats, right, you could see there that Song Yadong's pro career, 9 years, 10 months, and 19 days, but he's 25 years old. So they're telling you that he took his first pro fight at the age of 15. Well, evidently, some guys that grew up with him knew that he was at least 20 when he took that fight. So, while
so
he's like
an Ozamot. He's like
yeah, he's like
Ozamot.
Ozamot. Yeah, I always use the you're too young to remember Danny Almonte, but in the Little League World Series, there was this Dominican kid who was like 21 who got a birth certificate saying he was like 13. He was throwing like 96-mile-an-hour fastballs past crying children, and it became a big thing, with like the fake birth certificate to prove that you're younger, so that you can kind of work at a higher level. So anyway, that's what we're dealing with here. The question is Song going to be able to keep this fight on the feet? And there's some encouraging stats here, Brady. Like, for instance, Song, he's 5 of 9 on his takedown. So he averages 0.63 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's not a guy that's really going to the grappling offensively. He's attempted 9 takedowns. His opponents have attempted 42. So for almost 5 takedown attempts by his opponents for every one that Song tries. But still, Song gets 11.76% control time, and he allows 13.35. So he's been very efficient. You would expect him to be getting out-controlled by more than that, seeing as he doesn't, try nearly as many takedowns as his opponents, and his opponents have over twice as many takedowns as him. But with Ricky Simón, you're seeing a guy with 38% control time for and 4% control time against. He's out-controlling his opponents at a 9.45 to 1 ratio, winning over 90% of the control time positions that he's in. And Ricky Simón's fights take place in control time positions about 43% of the time. And at range, while he's not winning minutes, he lands less than he absorbs. He throws less than his opponents throw, but he's got 65% striking defense, and he's landed 4 knockdowns in 10 fights. 1.15% of the significant strikes that he lands results in a knockdown, and at distance, it's 1.61%. So he might even be more powerful than Song Yadong, according to the numbers when it comes to these striking stats. And then when you look at who these guys are fighting, a 1.93 win-to-loss ratio for Ricky Simon's opposition compared to 1.48 for Song Yadong. And when you look at the wins, dude, the wins for Ricky Simón are so good. 61 wins and 30 losses is the combined record of the 8 guys that Ricky Simón has beaten. So this guy is not just beating bums, dude. He's beating guys that have 2 wins for every UFC loss. The average UFC record of a guy that Simón beats is 7.63 wins and 3.75 losses. While for Song Yadong, it's 5.63 wins and 4.5 losses. So these guys are pretty well matched, but I like Simon's wrestling and ability to be able to win minutes a lot more. I think Simón has fought and beaten the better brand of competition. I think while this is on the feet, it's going to be close. These guys are about the same age, not on paper, but they're about the same age. And they've got similar experience levels at the UFC level and overall. Maybe Song doing a little better job of finishing at the UFC level. But look at the other thing, too, here. Overall record in decisions. Ricky Simón, 10-1 in decisions. And 8 for Song Yadong, it's 8-5-1 in decisions. So Ricky Simón just looks to be a really good minute winner. And when you give him a 25-minute fight instead of a 15-minute fight, that's just more minutes for him to win. So I got to go with Ricky Simón.
Yep. This is a fight I'm going to be enjoying playing on DraftKings. That's for sure. Ricky Simón has potential to score 1,000,000 points here. And so does Song Yadong. Like if Song Yadong wins, it's probably a knockout at some point. So yeah, DraftKings type of fight for me from a betting perspective. I don't know if I'll get there. Any thoughts on the money line? It's really close here. -120 Simón, +100 Yadong, one of the closest line fights on the card.
Yeah, these are two really high level guys. So I mean, I don't think I'd really be too confident on the money line side either way, because it's hard to have you want to find paths of victory and weaknesses, right? Well, there's not a lot for either one of these guys. They're not weak really in any area. Even Song, who doesn't grapple much, shows excellent efficiency there. Even though his opponents seem desperate to get to the fight to the ground, he's only being controlled 13% of his UFC career. That's not enough to lose fights. So it's going to be very close. I wouldn't be too confident in my money line read either way, but I am on the Simon side.
Any thoughts on like the under? Like I'm staying away from it. The over 2.5 is plus 120. The under 2.5 is minus 150. I'm staying away from it. But any thoughts from you?
That's weird. They got it at 2.5 for a 5-round fight, huh?
4.5.
4.5. Okay.
Yeah, the under.
Yeah, under 4.5 minus 150. So that they like violence here. They're saying about a 60% chance that this thing finishes under 4.5 rounds. And Simon's been knocked out once in the UFC, and Song Yadong has been knocked out once, but it really wasn't a knockout, was it? It was a doctor's stoppage. And Simon got sparked by Uriah Faber, so he's chinny, right?
That ruined my night that night.
That was wild, man. I remember like my jaw just being on the floor. I'm like, man, Ricky Simon's going to put on a wrestling clinic and a mullet clinic on this Faber guy. And that butt chin loser absolutely just left him sleeping and left me crying. So we'll see, man. But I'm on the Simon side here, Brady. I can't wait to see him back in there again. But Song Yadong is nobody's punk, and he's going to come to scrap here. This is a great main event. And it looks like Brady froze here. All right, there we go.
Can you see me?
Now you're up.
I don't know if I froze. I think I was just standing still or sitting still. No, I actually did. I did froze. It looked like my internet's like effing up. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. We went through all the fights. Very interesting card. Probably a light card from a betting perspective, but I think there's some solid violent spots sticking out, man. Like again, we have the Brundage Vieira fight. I think is violence, and then that Josh Quinlan fight. I think is going to be violence. And then that Natan Levy, Pete Rodriguez, a guy that's never seen 3 minutes into the first round, like that's got to be violence, right? So I like a lot of violent spots. I think that's how I'm going to attack this card. Just some violence on these lower level fights this week.
I think it's a great way to look at it, man. Yeah, and I definitely see the same thing happening here.
All right. So yeah, like I said, we did it. We're going to be going live tomorrow for some probability. Can't wait to talk about that. I'm sure some time props are going to stick out. Our probability parlay hit last night, Weezy. We had the
our one leg parlay.
Let's go. Cash it. Take it to the bank. One leg
Chalk
parlay.
it up. Buy a new house. I'm going to the car dealership. I'm going to get myself a Porsche or something, absurdly expensive.
Yes, maybe we can get a yacht and get hose on it.
Yeah, that would be so sweet. Yes. A yacht with hose is always the goal, isn't it?
Yeah, we had the Priscilla Cachoeira, Karina Silva under, and then we had the main event under. So it hit. There we go.
You know what's weird, Brady, is that the last 3 events in the UFC, my biggest action fight dropped out.
I hate that.
Cachoeira Silva I had the most action on last week. The week before that, it was Sherman versus Carl Williams. And the week before that, it was Manel Kape versus Alex Perez. And I wound up going into the card with like about half the units that I was supposed to because of those fights being called off.
Yeah. Yeah, that Cachoeira fight falling off really, I thought it was going to hurt me, but ended up having like the best card of the year almost. So it is what it is. But maybe I hope they can run that back because, man, Karina Silva has an afro on her. I want to see that afro in action.
I know, man. She's a fun fighter too. I think Priscilla's going to have to move up to 135. There's been too many weight misses, which is a shame.
Yeah, for sure. Josh Quinlan fight is off. Josh Quinlan got a new opponent, unless the new opponent's off, but he got a new opponent, so that fight should be good to go unless something.
Yeah. The Quinlan Lusa fight is off, but we broke down a little bit of Quinlan Waters.
Yes, sir. All right, Weezy, let the people know where they can find you in the plans throughout this week for this amazing card.
Yeah, you can find me tomorrow on the MMA Engine YouTube channel for Probability right here with Brady. We'll do it 1 hour before the Die Hard MMA podcast starts here on Pub Sports Radio. And you can find me on Tuesday on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. Break down all 12 of these fights from a stats and tape study perspective, give you my track bets, finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And you can find me on Wednesday right back here on Pub Sports Radio for the DFS show with my man Brady. Gordo and Monk will be breaking down this card from a DraftKings perspective. Only thing left to do, stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 72. Let's have a great week.
Yep. Lastly, I would like to thank Curtis Blades for going out there and not wrestling and cashing me a Sergey Pavlovich first round knockout ticket. This guy, it may not look like it. This guy is one of the most dangerous guys in the world. This guy can knock out a truck if he wanted to. Shout out to Sergey Pavlovich, knockout round 1. Obviously very handsome, and a haircut you can absolutely set your watch to. But you guys can find me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram at DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown will be out tomorrow. Got everything taped today. I woke up at 8. I'm like very tired. So probably gonna go to bed, wake up, and do that video for you guys. And then, yeah, like Weezy said, MMA Engine, and then Pub Sports Radio Wednesday for the DFS show, and then live streams on my channel, DFS by the numbers, Friday and Saturday. Best of luck for UFC Vegas 72. Bankroll management's key. Don't go crazy. Don't go out there and max bet Martin Buday. Don't do that. Don't max bet Jake Collier. Don't max bet Marcos Rogério de Lima. Just don't do it. Bankroll management's key. It's a long-term game. Best of luck, everybody. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.